All right, we're doing another episode of Butt Crack Cycles. My name's Paul. This is my little corner of YouTube where I do videos about old Harleys, and today we're going to walk around and look at all the old Harleys that are here on my property today. We're not actually working on anything today. I've been really busy lately. I haven't even had any time to work on motorcycles, which isn't a bad thing. Means I'm out there making money at sort of my other job. The motorcycle business is kind of like my secondary side gig almost, and I work for myself, so it's the motorcycles, and it's also I do field service, heavy duty field service on stuff like semi trucks, bulldozers, heavy machinery, generators, etc. But today is all about Harleys. That's what this whole channel is about, and I just wanted to walk around and just kind of give you all an update on all the bikes that are here on the property, all the projects, where we're at, where we're going, and just kind of pick y'all's brains about, you know, like which ones do you want to see first and in what order, what's most interesting to you, what do you care the least about. And you know, I take that stuff into consideration when I sort of pick and choose which of these projects I'm working on. As far as the motorcycle business is concerned, some of what I do is working on bikes for customers, family and friends and such. I don't really advertise that too much yet because I don't have a very big shop. Over my shoulder here is my 12 by 20 lawn and garden shed that I call my shop. So I don't really have the space to work on a whole lot of bikes at once, but you know, I would love to one day. But the main part of that business is buying and selling bikes. So I buy them broken really cheap and fix them up and then flip them. So we're gonna take some time to walk around, look at the flip bikes that I got here. I have one bike that's a friend's bike that'll be like a project, and I guess you could call that a customer bike. And then I have my two personal bikes. So there are 5 bikes here on the property. They range in age from 1974-ish, I'll explain that later, up to 96. 96 is the newest bike here right now, and that's a pretty good age range for you if you're just tuning in for the first time and you're trying to figure out what this channel is about. It's mostly Evo and older stuff, a lot of iron head, a lot of shovel head content. So let's walk over here and look at bike number 1. Bike number 1 is this bike right here. This is a 93 883 Evo Sportster sitting out here under my lean-to that's up next to the chicken coop. Everybody always asks about the rooster. He's right there. Say hey, Chompy. Not gonna crow when I want you to. He'll crow here when I don't want him to in a minute. Excuse all of my mess over here. Anywho's, like I said, this is a 93 883 Sportster. I bought this bike a few months ago with a clean numbers matching title. It's a complete bike. It does not run. I only paid $700 for it. As you can tell, let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah, you see me just wiping the dirt off. This bike's been sitting a long time. It's real dirty and dusty. Some of this dirt and dust is from sitting out here under the lean-to, but usually this bike is covered with a bike cover, though that cover is currently on another bike who needs it more than this. There's a lot to be done with this. This bike's in pretty rough shape. We've got a disaster of wiring. This is just terrible. So this bike needs to be rewired. It's got a lot of stuff that's not hooked up, cables and such, kind of everywhere. More janky wiring. But under here is where I found my first sort of big problems. I've had this primary cover off. Basically everything under the primary cover needs to be replaced. I think somebody probably tried to adjust the clutch on this and screwed up putting the clutch ramp back in, you know, right in here where your clutch cable actually goes into, and that came apart and we had sort of a clutch explosion under there. So this bike needs a new clutch basket. It needs, I'm probably just gonna go ahead and put a new primary chain on it. Everything for the alternator, so the actual stator itself and the rotor are both garbage. I did pull the transmission out. The transmission is inside on my workbench. Transmission actually seems okay. So we'll put the transmission back in this bike, rebuild everything underneath the primary, and then continue working on it. I'm sure it's gonna need fuel tank cleaned and carburetor cleaned. But yeah, this will be a winter project and hopefully have this ready to go in the spring for sale. Okay, enter the Garage Mahal. Like I said, this isn't very fancy, but it's been my sort of workshop for the roughly 10 years that we've owned this house. It's obviously pretty cluttered in here. It's a tight space. So yeah, you work with what you got though, and we've got some part shelf storage, lights, toolbox, nut and bolt, various, you know, stuff back there. There's a little part shelf, workbench, air compressor, and of course we've got 2 AC units. There's 10,000 BTUs worth of AC out here in this building because I live in South Carolina and it's hot. But back to motorcycles. My blue bike. This is my sort of golden child bike. This is my favorite. This is my 83 Ironhead Sportster. This is actually the only running bike on the property at this point in time, though it's not running perfectly right now. If y'all watched my congregation video, I was coming home on this bike and started having some what I think is maybe carburetor troubles. It might be intake manifold troubles. This bike was spitting and sputtering and just didn't want to idle. So we'll look into that, see what's going on there. That'll be an episode in and of itself. And I'm thinking actually this is probably a carburetor issue, more specifically some trash in the carburetor, because I rode this bike and I rode 200 miles on it the last time I rode this bike, and it ran great, and then all of a sudden it just didn't run good. It was spitting and popping and backfiring and didn't want to idle, and then magically it fixed itself and it ran perfect for like 10 miles, and then it started doing it again. I haven't started the bike up again since then, so it might be running good, might be running bad. I just put intake manifold seal on this bike like, I don't know, 2 months ago maybe, and I used the good ones, the tight seal from F&A Customs down there in Florida. That's what's on my shovel head, and I've had good luck out of those seals on the shovel head. And I made sure everything was square and level and in line, and the manifold was lined up good with cylinder heads before I tightened it all down. So I don't think, or at least I hope, that I don't have an intake boot issue, though I might, and I am going to check for that. Most likely, I've had this problem before on this bike. That tank is slowly coming apart inside. The coating inside of it is slowly coming apart, and I think some of it is so small that it gets past the little petcock screen and into the carburetor jets and gums them up, because I've had that happen on this bike one other time. It's probably about 6 months ago. So yeah, it'll probably be a pretty quick and easy fix. Probably just clean the carburetor out, and maybe I'll drain the fuel out of the tank, pull the petcock, spray the petcock screen off, and then I might just add like an inline fuel filter to it to try and stop that from happening again. But I definitely want to fix that one, since that's, you know, like the one I actually ride, you know. So yeah, but enough about the Ironhead. Let's go look at the shovel head. This is probably the bike that most of y'all recognize on this channel, and probably the reason why a lot of y'all are here. This is my orange shovel head. This is my other personal bike. Obviously this thing is in pieces right now, as shovel heads so often are. The oil bag's out of it. I'm redoing all the oil lines on this right now. I need to sort of tidy up some of this wiring. It's all new wiring. I just need to make it a little bit tidier. I'm redoing the oil lines. There's a primary housing. There's the inner primary. I'm isolating the primary. I tore all this apart because I had an oil leak and my clutch was slipping. And the reason for this oil leak was back behind the alternator drum right there, which I know it's really dark in here and hard to see on this side. But behind this alternator drum is your engine main sprocket shaft seal. And that was leaking a profuse amount of oil into my primary and getting those clutches too wet. And I would have put all this back together by now if it wasn't for this. This bike has always shifted terribly. It has the worst shifter feel of any motorcycle I've ever ridden ever. And it just has, there's a lot of slop, even in and out slop, like right there. This is a ratchet top transmission, and obviously this is an FL because the shifter lever points down. This is a FL frame. It's a 74 from what I believe, or what I've been told rather. In any event, that I think needs a rebuild, so I'm going to pull the transmission out and we're going to rebuild that. This sprocket right here also, it's looking pretty rough, so I've already got a new one, and watch this. That's not even tight, so that needs some attention. So that'll be an episode soon. We'll be pulling the transmission out of the shovel head, doing a transmission partial rebuild, might turn into a full rebuild depending on what I find. That's probably going to be expensive. Everything on this bike is expensive. This bike has just been, the wrench to ride ratio on it, I've said this before on the channel, is way off. It's way skewed in favor of wrench. I very rarely get to ride this thing because it's like took apart all the time. But I feel like I've got to be like slowly getting to the end of the tunnel. I've basically touched almost everything there is to touch on this bike. But yeah, there's gonna be a lot of shovelhead content. I've just been too busy to even, work on the blue bike, to just do something simple like probably clean a carburetor out. So I've definitely been too busy to fool with that shovelhead. Let's spin the camera around and look at bike number three. No, bike number 4. This is bike number 3 inside of the building. As you can tell, it's pretty tight out here. 3 bikes is really too much to be working on at any one time, but here we are. And so you can see this bike has just puked itself off into this corner, and I hate this because I don't really like having a mess, but that's what I got. I got a mess. This is a 96 Sportster. This bike is actually a 1200. I've had this for a long time now. I bet I've had this bike over 2 years. And it's just been sort of like a lingering project. It always seems to get ignored in favor of that or that. It also sometimes gets ignored in favor of bikes that I've bought to flip that are like quicker, faster flips. That bike is a flip bike. It's a project that I will finish and then sell. But it's a big project. As you can see, it's all the way took apart for the most part. We had some issues here with the primary being cracked. I got that welded up, TIG welded and fixed. And so the primary is put back together on it. From here, I need to finally take the wheels and tires and have the new tires put on. New tires are up there on the shelf right there. And then once the wheels and tires are on, I can put this back on the ground. I need to do some basic stuff too. You know, I've just got the shifters just on here, just hand tight. A lot of slop in these forward controls, like every set of forward controls. So I'll probably find a set of mid controls to put on it. I need to get the wheels and tires put back on, like I said. Get this put back down on the ground. This has a hog halter. I think this is a 3.5, maybe it's even a 5 degree over triple tree setup on it, so it's got a nice little amount of rake to it. Hard to see with me standing so close to it and the bike up on the stand and such, but this bike does have a decent amount of rake to the front, and so this will kind of be like a swing arm chopper-ish sort of with that raked front end. I've got a tank for it. I don't have a fender for it, but I need to get a back fender, and you can see that there's no carburetor on it and no exhaust on it right now either. It had a Super B on it, which was a piece of garbage, so I pulled that off. I've actually got a brand new CV carb to put on this thing, and just need to go through it and get it ready to run and get it ready to ride. I put a sweet paint job on this, and then again, hopefully this will be one that'll be up for sale in the spring. I gotta spend a minute here talking about this. Actually, I'm kind of glad that I didn't make good progress on that bike right when I first bought it, honestly. That was the first Harley that I bought with the intent to flip and sell, and there's been several that have come along since then that, like I said, were sort of quicker, easier fixes and flips. And I've learned a lot from those, and I've learned from my personal bikes, and I've learned from bikes that I've fixed for friends, and I've learned from bikes that I've fixed for customers. And that was a pretty big project that I picked for like my first one, you know? So I'm actually glad that I kind of stalled on that, and now I get to come back to it a few years later with some more knowledge and experience and wisdom and like a better vision for how to efficiently finish this project. So it's not always a bad thing if you stall out on a project. I can't remember what I paid for the bike. It was either $1,000 or $1,200, and again, it's a clean numbers matching title, so I don't really have very much in it. I've bought a couple $100 worth of parts for it, so it's not like it's tying up too much of my business's money, and at the end of the day, I'll turn a pretty good profit on that one. So yeah, it's sat around longer than it should have, but I'm really not too upset about that. So that's all 4 bikes back here. There's one more bike in the front yard, so we're going to teleport ourselves there now. There's bike number 5 sitting sitting in my walk path here underneath this cover. This is the cover that's usually on that orange 93. So let's pull this off. Let's see what we got. Imagine that, another Sportster. Yeah, there it is. So this is not my bike. This is my buddy Chris's bike. Chris and I have been real good friends for a number of years. We ran a shop together in the next town over, and when that shop got sold, the new owners didn't want to keep our business there, so we had to go, and we never were able to find anywhere that was conveniently located for both of us and actually within our business's budget. So we split the business up and went our separate ways as partners, but certainly not as friends. Y'all have seen Chris in a lot of my videos, but this is Chris's 76. He's had this bike for a long time. He's had it since high school. He's took it apart and put it back together a few times, sold it, bought it back from the guy he sold it to. Has a bolt-on, you see right here, it's a bolt-on hardtail kit. So I think we're probably gonna turn that into a weld-on hardtail, so it's a little nicer and cleaner. I got this bike running for him, it's gotta be almost 2 years ago now, and he was excited about it and then kind of lost interest in it. I love Chris, but he's not the best at finishing projects. And so when we moved out of the shop in the August of 2023, this bike followed me. It sat in my storage unit for over a year, and Chris just kind of like ignored it and was like, well, whatever, it's safe, it's dry, it's stored. And then I got out of the storage unit about a month ago because I was sick of paying $226 a month for storage, and so I brought it home with me, and he still hasn't come and got it. So it's just been living here in the walkway underneath a pretty good cover, so at least it stays pretty dry. But like I said, I'm trying to work on a bigger building, so y'all will see this bike, but I can tell you right now, even if this is your favorite one and the one you want to see done the most, because it's cool hardtail 76, you know, what is this, XLC? It's not an XLCH, this is kick and electric start. But yeah, you know, it's hardtail bobber deal. This will not be the first bike that gets done, simply because of the fact that I really just don't have anywhere to work on it. Yep, so that's Chris's bike. I think a lot of y'all will probably like that bike. I like that bike. I think it's a pretty cool bike, and I think it'll make a good YouTube episode. It'll just be a little while before we actually get to fixing that one. But that's really it for this episode. I'm gonna kind of just wrap it up here. I understand this hasn't been like the most exciting episode I've ever done because we didn't work on anything, we didn't go ride anything, we didn't have any, you know, hot take, you know, hot button opinions about Harleys. But I made a commitment to myself a few months ago to commit to doing 2 episodes a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, in an effort to try and treat this YouTube thing a little more seriously. I really enjoy making these videos. I like hearing the comments from y'all and what y'all have to say, and just advice and support, and even, you know, constructive criticism. I appreciate all of that, and I have fun making these videos, but I seriously thought about not putting a video out this week just because I didn't have anything that was like my usual content. But I told myself, I was like, Paul, just grab the camera, go outside, walk around, show everybody where you're at, just let people know that you're still here. And you know, I'm still here. I'm busy, which is good, but y'all have plenty of winter content to keep you, you know, in motorcycle land while maybe you might be snowed in or something, dreaming about riding. At the very least, you can watch me working on all these projects because I've got a lot of work to do. And I hope y'all will stick around to watch all of it. Appreciate everybody watching these videos. And yeah, that's it. I will see y'all on the next one. Bye-bye.